The restaurant was beautiful. Every detail perfect. White roses on each of the 25 tables. The pianist playing our song. Champagne chilling in silver buckets. The anniversary cake I'd spent 3 weeks planning with the baker sat on the center table, 40 candles waiting to be lit. 25 tables, 73 empty chairs. I sat alone at the head table, my phone in my hand, staring at the text from my daughter Rachel. "Mom, I'm so sorry. Something came up with the kids. Can't make it tonight." Then the one from my son, Michael. "Traffic is terrible. Not going to make it. Sorry." From my sister Janet. "Feeling under the weather. Rest up. Happy anniversary." From my niece, from my nephew, from my best friend of 30 years. Every single person I'd invited. Every single person who'd RSVP'd yes 6 weeks ago. Every single person who'd promised to help me celebrate 40 years of marriage to my late husband David. All gone. The waiter approached nervously. "Ma'am, should we start serving?" I looked at all those empty chairs and felt something crack open inside my chest. 6 months earlier, I'd started planning. David had been gone for 2 years, but our 40th anniversary felt important. Sacred, even. He would have wanted me to celebrate it, to bring everyone together the way I always had. I was good at bringing people together. That's what I'd always done. I was the one who hosted every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every birthday party. I was the one who remembered everyone's preferences, who made sure the family stayed connected. After David died, I'd worked even harder to keep everyone close. They needed me. The family needed me, or so I thought. I'd sent out the invitations 8 weeks before the anniversary. Beautiful cream cardstock with gold lettering. I'd included a personal note with each one, reminding everyone how much these gatherings meant to me, how important it was to keep the family traditions alive, especially now that David was gone. The RSVPs came back quickly. Everyone said yes. My daughter Rachel and her husband James, my son Michael and his wife Sarah, their children, my 4 grandchildren, my sister Janet, my brother Tom and his wife, their kids, David's brother and his family, my college roommate Linda, my book club friends, 73 people in total. I spent weeks choosing the restaurant. It had to be perfect. David and I had our wedding reception at the Sterling Hotel, but it had closed years ago. I found the Riverside room instead elegant, with views of the water, the same kind of white roses we'd had at our wedding. I planned every detail. The menu making sure to accommodate my grandson's nut allergy, my niece's vegetarianism, Michael's wife's gluten sensitivity. The seating chart, I spent hours arranging it so that everyone would sit near people they'd enjoy talking to, avoiding any potential conflicts. I didn't want Linda near Janet because they'd had that falling out last year. I kept Rachel's kids away from the dessert table because they got too excited around sweets. I chose the music. Made a playlist of songs from mine and David's courtship. Found a pianist who could play our first dance song. Ordered a slideshow of family photos going back 40 years. The week before the party, I called everyone to confirm. "Rachel, you're still coming, right? And you'll bring the photo albums I asked for?" "Yes, Mom." "And you'll wear something nice? Not jeans? This is a formal event." "Mom, I know." "Michael, you'll give the toast about your father, right?" I wrote some points you could cover. "Mom, I can write my own toast. I'm just trying to help, honey. And make sure Sarah knows we're serving fish, so if she wants chicken, I need to know now." "We'll be there, Mom." "Janet, you're bringing the wine, right? Not that cheap brand you got last time. Get the one I texted you about." Every call was the same. Me trying to help, trying to make sure everything would be perfect, making sure everyone knew their role in making this anniversary celebration everything it should be. The night before the party, I couldn't sleep. I kept going over my checklist, confirming with the restaurant, triple checking that the cake would be ready, making sure the flowers were the right shade of white. David would have told me to relax. "Evelyn," he would have said, "it doesn't have to be perfect. People just want to be together." But I wanted it to be perfect. For him, for us, for our family. At 6 o'clock on the anniversary evening, I arrived at the Riverside room an hour early. I needed to make sure everything was set up correctly. The tables were arranged, but not quite how I'd specified. I spent 20 minutes directing the staff to move them. The roses were slightly off-center. I fixed each one. The lighting was too bright. I had them dim it. By 7 o'clock, the official start time, I was ready. Perfectly dressed in the navy blue dress I'd bought specifically for this occasion. Hair styled at the salon that afternoon. Wearing the diamond earrings David had given me for our 25th anniversary. 7:15. No one had arrived yet. Traffic, probably. I'd told everyone to leave early, but no one ever listened. 7:30. I started texting. Rachel, are you on your way? Michael, where are you? Janet, are you close? 7:45. The first responses came in. Rachel, Mom, I'm so sorry. Emma has a fever. We can't make it. I called her immediately. Rachel, you promised. I've been planning this for months. Mom, she's really sick. I can't leave her. Bring her with you. We'll set up a quiet corner. Mom, no. I'm not bringing a sick child to a restaurant. You could have told me earlier. It just started an hour ago. I'm sorry. She hung up before I could respond. Then Michael's text. Traffic is terrible. Not going to make it. Sorry. I called him. Michael, you left too late. I told you to leave early. Mom, there was an accident on the highway. I can't control traffic. You should have taken the route I suggested. I have to go, Mom. I'm driving. Janet's text was next. Feeling under the weather. When I called her, she barely answered before saying, Evelyn, I really can't talk right now. I'm sorry about tonight. You were fine this morning. I talked to you. It came on suddenly. I need to rest. One by one, the excuses came in. Tom had a work emergency. Linda's car wouldn't start. My nephew had a stomach bug. The messages kept coming. Each one another nail in the coffin of my perfect evening. By 8 o'clock, I was sitting alone in that beautiful room, surrounded by empty chairs, and I couldn't understand what had happened. The waiter asked if I wanted to cancel. The restaurant manager offered sympathy. I could barely hear them over the roaring in my ears. I paid for the entire evening anyway. The food no one would eat, the champagne no one would drink, the cake no one would cut. It cost me $3,000. $3,000 for the most humiliating night of my life. I went home and cried for the first time since David's funeral. Not quiet tears, loud, gasping sobs that echoed through my empty house. How could they do this to me? How could they all abandon me on tonight of all nights? I thought about calling Rachel again, demanding a real explanation. I thought about driving to Michael's house and confronting him, but instead, I just sat in David's old armchair and stared at the walls. Around midnight, I picked up my phone to look at the messages again, trying to find some clue about what had really happened. That's when I saw it. A notification. I'd been accidentally added to a group chat. The name of the chat was Sunday Dinner. No, Mom. My finger hovered over it for a long moment before I opened it. The messages went back months. Rachel, is everyone still on for Sunday dinner at our place? And yes, before anyone asks, Mom doesn't know. Michael, confirmed. Sarah's excited for an actual relaxing meal. Janet, I'll bring wine. The good wine, not whatever Mom insists on. My niece. Thank God. I can't handle another one of Aunt Evelyn's organized events. I scrolled up. There were hundreds of messages. They'd been meeting every other Sunday for the past 6 months. At Rachel's house, at Michael's house, at restaurants I'd never heard of. Without me, I kept scrolling. My hands shaking. Michael, 3 weeks ago. So, about Mom's anniversary thing. Rachel, I know. I feel terrible, but I can't do it. Sarah, none of us can. It's just going to be her controlling every second, telling us where to sit, what to say, fixing our clothes, correcting our stories. Janet, Remember last Christmas? She rearranged my entire outfit in front of everyone because she didn't like my sweater. Tom. And she spent Thanksgiving dinner telling me how I was carving the turkey wrong. Linda. She's been my best friend for 30 years, but I can't take one more event where she plans my conversations for me. Rachel. I love Mom. I do. But these events aren't about being together. They're about her controlling everything. I can't watch her do that on Dad's anniversary. Dad would have hated it. Michael. Dad spent 40 years gently trying to get her to relax. Remember how he'd always say, "It's fine, Evelyn," whenever she'd stress about parties. Sarah. So what do? We all RSVP'd, yes. Rachel. We make excuses, all of us. Same night. She'll be upset, but maybe she'll finally understand. Janet. Understand what? Rachel. That we can't keep doing this. That we need space. That her way of loving us is suffocating us. I dropped the phone. They didn't have emergencies. They weren't sick. They didn't have car trouble. They chose not to come. All of them. Together. On purpose. I don't remember much about the next few days. I stayed in bed, mostly. Didn't answer the phone when Rachel called. Didn't respond to Michael's texts checking in. On the third day, I finally got up and walked through my house. Really looked at it for the first time in years. Every room was a shrine to my vision of family. Photo albums I'd organized and reorganized. Scrapbooks I'd made without asking if anyone wanted them. The dining room table that sat 12 for dinners where I dictated the conversation topics. The kitchen where I'd spent countless hours cooking meals to my exact specifications, rejecting any offered help because no one did it right. I went into David's study. I'd barely touched it since he died. It felt wrong to disturb his space. His desk still had papers on it. His reading glasses. The mystery novel he'd been reading. Bookmarks still in place at page 247. And a journal. Leather-bound, old. I'd never seen it before. I opened it, not sure if I should, but unable to stop myself. The first entry was dated 40 years ago. Our wedding day. Married Evelyn today. She's extraordinary. A force of nature. She planned every second of today, and it was perfect. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be enough for someone who has such a clear vision of how things should be. I flipped through the years. Page after page of David's handwriting. Evelyn spent 3 hours rearranging the living room today. I liked it the way it was, but I didn't say anything. It makes her happy. Rachel's first birthday party. Evelyn invited 40 people. Rachel cried the whole time from overstimulation. Evelyn was so stressed trying to make everything perfect that she barely held the baby. I spent the party in the nursery with Rachel while Evelyn hosted. Michael asked if he could skip the family reunion. Said he wanted to stay home and read. Evelyn said no. Family events are mandatory. He cried in the car, the whole way there. I let him sit in the car with me for most of it. Evelyn organized a surprise party for my 50th birthday. Invited everyone I know. I hate surprise parties. I hate big gatherings. She knows this, but she was so proud of herself. I smiled and thanked her, and felt exhausted for weeks after. Rachel's wedding. Evelyn planned most of it. Rachel wanted something small. Evelyn convinced her she needed the big venue, the elaborate dinner, the choreographed dances. Rachel looked miserable at her own wedding. James looked terrified. Evelyn looked triumphant. Michael told us he got a job offer in Seattle. Evelyn immediately started planning how he could turn it down, listing all the reasons he should stay close to family. He took the job anyway. Evelyn didn't speak to him for a month. The entries became shorter in recent years. David's handwriting shakier. I'm dying. The doctors say 6 months, maybe 8. I haven't told Evelyn yet because I know she'll try to organize my death. She'll want to plan my dying, schedule my deterioration, arrange my last moments into something beautiful instead of just being with me. I told her today. She immediately started researching treatment centers, making schedules, organizing meal plans. She's trying to control cancer the way she controls everything else. I'm so tired. I asked her to just sit with me today. Just sit. No plans, no schedules, no organizing. She lasted 10 minutes before she got up to rearrange my medications. I love her. God, I love her. But I've spent 40 years watching her organize the love right out of every moment. She thinks love is perfect birthday parties and planned conversations and everything in its place. She doesn't understand that love is messy and spontaneous and imperfect. I wish I'd been brave enough to tell her, but I never wanted to hurt her. So I just smiled and said, "It's fine," Evelyn 10,000 times while parts of me quietly disappeared. The last entry was dated 2 days before he died. Rachel and Michael visited separately today. Evelyn had scheduled their visits so they wouldn't overlap. She said it was more efficient. They each got exactly 1 hour. She stood in the room the whole time, directing the conversation, making sure we covered all the important topics she'd listed. I wanted to tell them I loved them. I wanted to tell them to be kind to each other, to be kind to their mother, to forgive me for not being stronger. But Evelyn kept talking, kept organizing, kept managing. My last days with my children, and I barely got to speak to them because their mother was too busy making sure everything went according to her plan. I hope they know I loved them. I hope they know I saw them, even when I was too weak to push back against their mother's need for control. I hope someday Evelyn understands that she pushed everyone away with her perfection, that her love, delivered through control, felt like suffocation. I hope she learns to let go before she ends up completely alone. It's probably too late for that, but I hope anyway. I closed the journal and sat in David's chair until the sun went down. The next morning, I called Rachel. "Mom, I'm so sorry about the anniversary dinner. I know," I said. "I know about the group chat. I got added by accident." Silence. "Rachel, I need to talk to you and Michael. In person. Both of you. Can you come over?" "Mom, I don't think..." "Please." Something in my voice must have convinced her because 3 hours later, they were both sitting in my living room, looking uncomfortable. I took a breath. "I found your father's journal. I read it, all of it." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Michael looked at the floor. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Did I suffocate you? Both of you? Your whole lives?" Rachel started to speak, stopped, started again. "Mom." "The truth, Rachel." She looked at Michael. Some silent conversation passed between them. Then she turned back to me. "Yes," she said quietly. "Yes, you did." I nodded. It still hurt to hear, but I'd known. Reading David's words, I'd known. "Tell me," I said. "Tell me everything." And they did. Rachel told me about her wedding, how she'd wanted something small and simple, but I'd pushed for the elaborate affair. How she spent her wedding day doing what I wanted instead of what would have made her happy. Michael told me about the Seattle job, how it was his dream opportunity, but I'd made him feel selfish for taking it. How he'd chosen between his career and my approval, and how that choice damaged our relationship for years. They told me about Christmases where they had to follow my schedule, my menu, my seating arrangements. About birthdays where they couldn't invite who they wanted because I'd already made the guest list. About spontaneous plans they'd made that I'd shut down because they conflicted with my organized activities. "You were always trying to create these perfect moments," Rachel said. "But Mom, life isn't perfect moments. It's messy and spontaneous, and sometimes people don't sit where you want them to sit or eat what you planned, and that's okay." "When Dad was dying," Michael said, his voice cracking, "you scheduled our visits with him. You gave us each 1 hour, and you stayed in the room the whole time, making sure we talked about the right things. Mom, we needed private time with him. We needed to say goodbye our own way, but you couldn't let go of control long enough to let us have that." I started crying. I thought I was helping. I thought I was keeping the family together. "You were keeping us together," Rachel said. "But you were holding so tight that we couldn't breathe." We sat in silence for a long time. "The Sunday dinners," I finally said. "The ones without me. How long have those been happening?" 6 months, Michael admitted. "We needed space. We needed to be a family without constantly being managed." Are they good? The dinners? Rachel smiled sadly. They're chaotic. The kids run around. People talk over each other. We burn things. Sarah brings too much wine. It's messy and loud and completely unorganized. And they're wonderful, Mom. They're exactly what family dinners should be. I thought about all the dinners I'd hosted. Every detail perfect. Every moment scheduled. And I thought about David's words. She organized the love right out of every moment. I want to come to one, I said. They looked at each other, uncertain. I want to come to one, I repeated. And I promise I won't organize anything. I won't rearrange the furniture or criticize the food or schedule the conversation. I'll just be there, if you'll let me. Mom, Rachel said carefully, that's really hard for you. We've watched you try to not control things before. You can't help yourself. I know. But I want to try. I want to learn. I looked at both of them. I'm 63 years old. I've spent 4 decades organizing love instead of just loving. Your father knew it. You know it. And now, I know it. I don't want to spend whatever years I have left alone because I couldn't learn to let go. Michael leaned forward. What would that look like? How would you actually change? I don't know, I admitted. I need help. I need you to tell me when I'm doing it again. I need you to be patient with me while I learn. And I need you to give me another chance. Rachel wiped her eyes. The anniversary dinner. Mom, that was our way of telling you we couldn't do this anymore. We thought if we all didn't come, you'd understand we needed things to be different. I understand now. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all of it. For your wedding, Rachel. For making you feel like you couldn't take the Seattle job, Michael. For controlling your father's dying instead of just being with him. For 40 years of loving you wrong. You didn't love us wrong, Michael said. You just loved us in the only way you knew how. But now I need to learn a different way. Will you teach me? They looked at each other again. Another silent conversation. Sunday dinner this week, Rachel finally said. At my house, 6 o'clock. But Mom, you have to promise. I promise. I'll bring wine. Whatever's on sale. And if it's terrible, that's okay. Rachel laughed through her tears. Deal. That first Sunday dinner, I almost canceled 12 times. Every instinct screamed at me to call Rachel and offer to host instead, at my house where I could control the environment. But I went. Rachel's house was chaos. The kids were running around before dinner. The salad dressing was store-bought. The table wasn't set until right before we ate. Half the family ate in the living room because there weren't enough seats at the dining table. I sat on my hands so I wouldn't start organizing. I bit my tongue 17 times when I wanted to offer suggestions. When Emma spilled her juice, I forced myself to stay seated while Rachel cleaned it up, even though I knew the right way to get stains out of that carpet. It was the hardest 2 hours of my life, but it was also too nice. People laughed. They told stories that went off topic. Michael and James debated sports loudly. The kids showed me their drawings, which they'd made that afternoon instead of following some planned activity. Sarah asked me about my garden. Not because it was on a conversation schedule, but because she was genuinely curious. Janet told an inappropriate joke, and everyone laughed instead of me shooting her a disapproving look. As I was leaving, Rachel walked me to my car. How was it? She asked. Honestly, terrifying, I said. But also good. Thank you for inviting me. You did great, Mom. I only saw you almost reorganize the napkins twice. 3 times. You missed one. She hugged me. Next time will be easier. Next time, if you want to come. Same time next week. Michael's hosting. I nodded, not trusting my voice. It's been 8 months now. I go to Sunday dinner every week. Sometimes I slip up. Last month, I accidentally reorganized Rachel's pantry while looking for coffee filters. 2 weeks ago, I started to suggest a seating arrangement before catching myself. But I'm learning. I'm learning that my grandchildren's artwork doesn't have to be perfectly displayed. It can be taped crookedly to the fridge. I'm learning that dinner conversation can wander and meander and never reach a conclusion. I'm learning that burnt cookies are fine if everyone's laughing while they eat them. I'm learning to sit with the discomfort of things being imperfect and understanding that imperfect is enough. Sometimes imperfect is better. Last Sunday, Emma crawled into my lap during dinner, something she never did before because I'd always been too busy managing the event to sit still. She fell asleep there, her head on my shoulder, and I just sat and held her while the conversation flowed around us. Rachel caught my eye and smiled. I smiled back. I still miss David every day. I miss him more now that I understand what I put him through. I wish I could tell him I finally get it. I wish I could give him the gift of just being present instead of perfectly organized. But I can give that gift to my children, to my grandchildren, to the years I have left. I read David's journal sometimes, the last entry, where he hoped I'd learn to let go before I ended up alone. I didn't learn in time to save my marriage from my need for control, but I learned in time to save my relationships with my children. It's not perfect. I'm not perfect. Some weeks are harder than others, but every Sunday, I show up to messy, chaotic, unplanned dinners, and every Sunday, I'm surrounded by family who chose to be there, not because I organized it perfectly, but because I finally learned to let go.